Today we're doing a deep dive into one of the chapters of my book, The Next Level Entrepreneur. Focus your passions, map your direction, build a great company. To live into who you're intended to be is living into adventure. These massive men who live lives of quiet desperation have resigned life. And they resigned life for a safe, more secure, happy little life. And there's no adventure. There's no risk.
Yeah, but following your dreams takes you on an adventure.
And you're exposing yourself, boom, you keep going. Because you're living into who you are, because the more liberal laws apply and you start to experience a freedom you'll never find any other way.
Welcome to the Live Truly Free podcast, where we provide fatherly guidance to entrepreneurs at any level of their journey. Hi, I'm George Black, and this is AJ. Are you ready for this week's adventure of building great companies and discovering the Live Truly Free lifestyle for entrepreneurs? Awesome, let's get started.
Welcome to this week's podcast. We're really excited because, as we mentioned last week, we've gotten the whole audiobook recorded. Now we're going through the editing and hope to have it released here in the next few weeks. So, what are we going to do, AJ?
Yeah, today we're going to start looking at some of these letters and kind of giving you guys the author's take on some of the letters. I'm going to try to be my best reader here and ask the author good questions to pull more out of these letters than you would get from just hearing the audiobook. While hearing the audiobook would be great and you can draw your own conclusions, now we got the opportunity to ask the author what he was thinking behind the words we read to you guys.
Because we can say more in a podcast than I can say in a book, right?
Yeah, we're limited to just reading the words in the audiobook.
So we talked before we came on, and we want to do the letter Castles in the Air, right?
Yeah.
So this is a letter Mr. A writes. Oh, I should explain for those who are new. So it's a book of letters between a young entrepreneur, Max North, in Kansas, 1941.
Read by me.
Read by Max, AJ, right here. And then he writes to Mr. A, who's an entrepreneurial sage in New York City. This is a letter from Mr. A back to Max early in the book, early in like 1941. Oh, it's October 1941. And it's called Castles in the Air because of the quote he pulls from Walden, Henry David Thoreau's book, written in the 1830s. And this quote had profound impact on Mr. A, and we wanted to have a profound impact on you because it's having a profound impact on us.
Yeah.
Shall I read it?
Yeah.
All right. So, I have to put on my reading glasses here. This is kind of dense. I'm going to read it, and then we're going to go back through it. I learned this, at least by my experiment, that if one advances confidently in the direction of his dreams and endeavors to live the life which he has imagined, he will meet with a success unexpected in common hours. He will put some things behind, will pass an invisible boundary. New, universal, and more liberal laws will begin to establish themselves around and within him. Or the old laws be expanded and interpreted in his favor in a more liberal sense, and he will live with the license of a higher order of beings, in proportion as he simplifies his life. The laws of the universe, are you still tracking with me on this? Hang in there. In proportion as he simplifies his life, the laws of the universe will appear less complex, and solitude will not be solitude, nor poverty, poverty, nor weakness, weakness. If you have built castles in the air, your work need not be lost. That is where they should be. Now, put the foundations under them.
That quote stuck with me too after I read it because it's abstract in terms of like he's talking not about reality. Obviously, you're not going to build a castle in the air, but he's really speaking to dreaming up a castle in the air. Thinking up the most big, grand, beautiful castle that you can possibly imagine and building it up as high as you possibly can. And then you start here on Earth and your job is now to build the stairway up to that big, beautiful castle that you've imagined. Is that kind of...
Yeah, so that's kind of the bottom line to the quote. And that's what I like about it, is it's practical. So it's not just dreaming. And this will launch, Mr. A is using this to launch Max into dreaming. And we use it in the book to get the reader dreaming, because that's super important to creating. So as entrepreneurs, right, we see a need and we figure out a way to fix that. You know, see if we can monetize, see if we can, meet a need and create a product or a service or something.
Yeah, create something better than what it currently is. Which
Right.
you saw a problem and now you're just like,
Right.
I can do that better and make this better for people, and in the meantime, make some money.
That's like walking around like this, just looking at the step ahead of you.
Yeah.
What Thoreau is saying is, no. Dream. Look to the clouds. Look up.
Yeah.
And then when he says put foundations, those would be the foundation. So what lots of us do is we just look at our feet and we just kind of look a few steps ahead of us, and we don't ever dream.
Yeah. And this isn't even saying, so I like your metaphor where you're saying don't look just the steps ahead of you, like look up.
Right.
But it's not just looking up. You're actively building up. You're seeing what's not even there. It's like you're imagining what's up there before you start taking the actual steps that you can see.
So so let's unpack this a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, what Thoreau is actually saying in this is that if one advances confidently in the direction of his dreams, and so, in other words, what dreams are real?
Yeah.
Or could be real.
Yeah.
Is it just a silly dream? Is it a good dream?
Yeah. And so once you figure out which dream you're using, or if you're going to want to pursue, he says advance confidently towards it.
And then he adds, endeavors to live the life which he has imagined. Okay, so ultimately, entrepreneurs and anyone in life, we have dreams about how our life is going to turn out. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't turn out that way, right? There's reality. The world is hard. Things don't always work. But that's not the point. The point is that you move toward that.
Yeah. Yeah, so like you were saying, you might not ever realize that actual dream. But you can at least, the actual pursuit of the dream is the most fulfilling part of it. Like that's what's going to give people the most motivation, the most rewarding part of their life is I'm working towards this dream.
Okay.
Even though it might not actually come to fruition.
So unpack some things in the book, but let's just go back to the quote for a quick second, because he says, following that, he will put some things behind, will pass an invisible boundary, and new, universal, and more liberal laws will begin to establish themselves around and within him. So I started a few years ago, Live Truly Free. And Live Truly Free, this is what this is really talking about, is that when you start to move towards your dreams, when you start to advance confidently that way, and you start living into who you see yourself becoming. So this can go way beyond an entrepreneurial endeavor.
Yeah.
So, for example, let's say I'm going to take something personal, like let's say you want to publicly speak. You want to be a public speaker, but you get really nervous about standing in front of like 3 people to even talk. But you start visualizing and seeing yourself as a speaker, and you start moving confidently in that direction, you will have some kind of breakthrough. You will discover things about you that are holding you back. You may need healing. You may need counseling. You may need just to let go of some stuff. But there comes this moment when the laws of fear don't apply to you anymore.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was trying to say, but you said it much better than I said it. It's like, yeah, once you start actively pursuing your dreams, you become more free. You stop being restrained by as many things. You stop thinking about all these negative things that might stop you from doing it because you're actively doing it and you realize that you can finally do it.
Yeah, it reminds me of a story. This is early in life. And so this happens on social media all the time. Yeah. This was before social media. But and I was at university and wanted to run for a seat in the student senate, student government.
Okay.
And all the people around me told me there was no way I could win.
Mm-hmm. Why not?
I don't know why not. They just, I guess they just assumed I was a loser and I would lose the race.
Okay.
I don't really know. But nobody encouraged me.
Mhm.
Well, that actually fueled me. And I lost the fall election, but in the springtime, I ran against 2 incumbents and I beat them both.
Oh, wow.
And the thing is that I had to work through something. I had to work through believing what others said about me.
Yeah, about whether you could do it or not.
And I had to believe me and what I could do.
Mm-hmm.
And I devised a strategy and I executed that strategy. For example, my flyer was on this was back in the days when they had bulletin boards. And my flyer was on every bulletin board in the campus. This is a huge campus, 25, 30, 40,000 students or something.
Mm-hmm.
And that Monday morning, people go to class, everybody knew my name. I was on, and it cost me nothing except the whole weekend to go around and staple. Those are things, that's a metal little thing that you...
I noticed.
Oh, okay.
I
know. Yeah. All right. So I literally, and that's what it is. It's like, but that was advancing confidently toward my dream.
Mm-hmm.
You see, because if I didn't do that, if I believed all the people who said, "Hey, you'll never win," I wouldn't have gotten out of my room and hiked all over campus all weekend.
And you would have let them restrain you. But once you started doing that, you started feeling those more liberal laws, as Thoreau talks about.
Well, I don't think I actually felt that until I won.
Yeah.
Because now the proof was in the pudding. And it was it was amazing because it was 2 incumbents. And usually they had runoffs and stuff. Yeah. There was no runoff.
You just won outright.
I won outright.
Nice.
And that was kind of the first time something like that had ever happened to me.
And so what you're speaking to, and what this quote speaks to, and then there's a lot of references to it throughout the book, is this concept of envisioning. But I wanted to kind of ask you, because every company now has a mission and a vision statement that you can pull up on their website.
Right.
But you don't say, there's no reference to a vision statement in this entire book. It's, I don't even know if you say the word vision. You always put envision.
Right.
Could you kind of explain and unpack the difference between those two?
Yeah. It's subtle, but it's super important. And actually, I do use the word vision because Mr. A has what he calls his prehistoric artwork.
Oh, yeah.
And vision, he points out the hills way off in the distance, and that's the vision.
Yeah.
So, but what I'm after in this process of the Next Level Navigator. So inside the book is a complete strategic process that you can use to navigate life with, you can navigate your business with. I've used it I helped a company go from $100 million to $500 million over 4 years using the process on multiple levels within the company. Mm-hmm. And here's the key, is that you've got to know, what do you envision? Mm-hmm. So a vision statement of a company, it comes from the word corporate, which is body. So it's a body of people, right? But it's not a person. And what I have found is like you have a singular person who has a vision.
Yeah.
Steve Jobs had a vision for Apple. Mm-hmm. And he envisioned Apple, being, a certain way. Now Tim Cook I'm using Apple, but you see this with lots of companies.
Yeah.
And especially the innovative ones, they envision something. And I'm like, well, why don't we call it what it is? It's what I envision. So as an entrepreneur, solopreneur, or just living your life, what do you envision for your company, for your life?
Yeah. So when I'm kind of gathering, you didn't say this exactly, but so vision is almost like Mr. A's drawing, like when you stand, like actually what you're seeing.
Right.
But envisioning is what that leader has in their head for where they want this organization to be going, or the impact that they can be having.
Right, but not exactly.
Okay.
It's not in their head.
Got it. Where is it?
The deepest part of who they are.
Mm.
And so that's why you have to go to dreams.
Yeah.
That's because, and these dreams are from growing up as a youth, as a kid.
Yeah.
What did you dream of as? Well, I dreamed of being an astronaut. That was silly. I dreamed of being a surgeon or a ballet dancer in the New York Ballet, prima donna, the number one. You know, and you know that was just silly. That was just childhood stuff. No. Inside those dreams are huge clues about you and about me.
Yeah, so you're saying that those childhood dreams, they're not just dreams. They're kind of like stories that your childhood self invented to express who you are. Express the kind of the story that your childhood you saw in yourself, basically.
Let's say you dreamed of being a basketball star for the NBA.
Yeah, I did.
Oh, lucky guess. Lucky guess. And let's say I dreamed of being an NBA basketball star too. Okay. And we're about the same height and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
All right. I can assure you who you are and who I am are uniquely and completely different, even though we had a dream in common. And let's say we both became NBA basketball stars. We still would be executing that dream, living into that dream, completely different.
For a different reason.
It's just the uniqueness of who we are.
Yeah.
In other words, this is why I say, you'll hear me say this on podcasts, it's in the book. I don't know if it's in the book, but if you don't bring who you are to this world, no one will. You're the only person who can be AJ in this world.
Yeah.
I'm the only one who can be George.
And to do that, you have to respect those dreams. Because those are going to tell you.
Yeah, that's an interesting word. Yeah, I think honor.
Yeah.
Yeah, you've got to honor yourself and honor those dreams. And so that's where we've got we call it sage advice to apply. They're kind of little exercises in the book to help you figure out what are your childhood dreams, what are your dreams today, what happened to those, a whole kind of thing there, because that's the best clue for who you are and where you can go.
Yeah. And so this brings us back to the quote, actually.
Okay.
Because you're talking about the dreams and then that pursuit of them. So it's like, yeah, those dreams are the best clue you have as to who you are. And then you pursue them and you start living into a more free life. And then here, if I could read it.
Yep.
On page 29, Mr. A here, he gives some explanation of the quote, but I felt like it was missing something. It felt like he dropped some knowledge and then got out really quick without like really making sure everyone got to it, like fully expressing it. So I was wondering if I could get you to elaborate on it a little more.
I'll take my best shot.
Yeah.
At what Mr. A wrote. See, because he writes from the standpoint of brevity is the soul of wit. So it's as few as words as possible. Boom, pack the punch and get in and get out.
Exactly why now we need to talk to the author to pull a little more out. Wish we could interview Shakespeare maybe.
Right.
For that too.
Exactly.
So Mr. A writes here, nonetheless, Thoreau's description of quote-unquote passing an invisible boundary is precisely how it feels when one shakes free of disappointment and healing for any hurts has begun. The results are new freedoms, or as he describes, quote-unquote, more liberal laws will establish themselves. But the secret result of the dynamic of dreams and disappointment is that a new kind of happiness begins to establish itself, i.e., a greater contentment in life. Thoreau describes this as, quote-unquote, simplifies his life, solitude will not be solitude, nor poverty poverty, etc. And then he goes on to talk about other people. What is he trying to tell us here? And what is this deeper meaning to impact? Because it does seem it seems like he's really getting almost like the core of human experience, I want to say.
Right. Okay. So this pushes against literally everything our society wants to cram down our throats in 2023.
And that is?
That happiness is not sourced in all these things that the advertising would tell us. By buying this, you're going to be so much better off.
Yeah.
Or or social media, if you just had this job, or look at these people of your close friends and the lives they're like, well, it's a highlight reel of their life.
Yeah.
Good night. They don't live that way 99.9% of the rest of the time.
Yeah. And that reminds me of like a joke me and my friends would have in high school. In high school, kind of like big thing for basketball players is you look up like the best players' mixtapes.
Right.
And you go like, oh, he never misses a shot, but it's because it's his mixtape. Like,
right.
Of course,
right.
It's only the cool stuff. He's always going to make things.
Yeah.
Like, everything looks great.
Yeah. He's flying through the air, slams it in the basket, and you're like, I'll never be that good.
Yeah, you don't see when he doesn't get the foul call he thought he deserves and throws a tantrum, showing that he's a bad teammate, or like you don't see that part in the highlight reel.
So what this is getting at is, where is happiness? Where do you find happiness? And okay, so this actually is, you've actually picked a very, very core paragraph to the whole book, actually. Mm-hmm. It's kind of a key, okay? So I'm going to give you a key. Happiness, let's see if I can pull some words here. This, in proportion as he simplifies his life, the laws of the universe will appear less complex. In other words, I don't have to listen to all these people who are telling me I won't win the election. I want their approval. No, yeah. I don't. I want to win. Mm-hmm. I want to do it.
Yeah. And to your advertising point, I don't need everything everyone's trying to sell me. Like, that's not what's making
So
your life
where
better.
is happiness to be found? I think it's in these more liberal laws. Well, how do you get to the more liberal laws? Well, back up in the sentence. You've got to pass an invisible boundary. You have to break through. And when you break through to what? Break through to choosing, living into who you're intended to be. I mean, after all, what on earth are you here for?
Yeah, and that's a question you've asked our audience here multiple times. I hope it's helping them contemplate it, because I know I'm trying to figure it out myself right now.
Right.
And I know it's a long time thing, but
you have lots of time to figure it out.
Yeah, exactly. But like a quote like this helps me guide it. It's like, okay, figure out the dreams, think through the dreams, and follow my passions, follow my heart, rather than trying to listen to all the outside noise, because they're just complexities that
right.
Are unneeded for me at this moment.
Well, and let me just add to that, because you'll hear pushback on follow your passions. And so what we're not saying is, it's not just willy-nilly follow any dream.
Yeah. I'm not going to start putting in 12 hours a day to try to make the NBA. I feel
right.
like that's no longer possible.
Let me tell you something. It's not as much of a dream as you thought it was.
Yeah.
There was something about the NBA that you want to capture and live into in other places of your life.
Yeah.
But had it been the dream, you'd be in the NBA.
Yeah.
I mean, there's lots of guys who are 6 feet. You know, I think you're taller. I think you're 6'1", 6'2".
I think I'm 6. But...
Well, okay. That debate, we can just solve with the measuring tape. But here's the thing, is that these dreams are hierarchical. Yeah. And there's certain reasons why you studied certain things, or you've done certain courses. And sometimes it's because, well, I didn't want to disappoint Dad. Dad wanted me to be a brain surgeon. Dad wanted this or whatever. Here's the thing. It's like, but when you break through this breakthrough and this invisible boundary, and you begin choosing to live into who are you intended to be, and you go on that search, what will the world forever miss if you don't bring it?
And it's not the smoothest segue I have, but it does make me think of this one thing. When you look at old people, it almost feels like they never crossed that boundary.
Okay. Yeah, in general. I mean,
obviously there are
right.
plenty of exceptions, but a lot of them, when you see them, it seems like they never passed that boundary. They were always listening to what other people said and kind of just did the life that other people told them to live. And it feels like they don't have any passion.
We've done podcasts on, you you go to school, you get a job, you retire, you die, you know.
And it feels like a lot of the oldest generation we have in this country, it feels like a lot of them just fell into that.
Thoreau also wrote this. This is not in the book. The mass of men, that means most people, live lives of quiet desperation. a desperation that is resignation. And you can literally, and I have seen people, and I've just watched their lives get smaller and smaller and smaller. So watch last week's podcast, because we share Mr. A's letter. We share 2 audiobook letters, and listen to Infinite or Finite.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's about how big is your view of the world. Is your world getting bigger, or is it getting smaller? So check this out. On page 27, there's this quote here from a prophet named Joel. I will pour out my spirit on all people. Your sons and daughters will prophesy. Now that's a little context, but here's the key. Your old men will dream dreams, and your young men will see visions. So apparently, it's in our design that even as we get older, to dream dreams.
Yeah. And for me and Max, what do we call this? A prophecy? Or the ancient writings of the prophet, right?
Right.
That's like counterintuitive to what we think. Because the reason Mr. A is actually writing this to Max in the first place is Max was like, you're an old man. What are you doing dreaming?
Right.
Like, I didn't think you old men dreamed anymore. And so he responds with that quote. And I have the same feeling, but I think it's because most of the old men we see are living that life of desperation and resignation.
Right.
So we don't see them dreaming. But in reality, they should be.
What happened to those men? And women, too. I'm more fluent on the masculine side of things because I am one. But so I don't know what it's like for the ladies, to be really quite honest. But for men, this is so true. And just look at what our world tells us. Our world tells us that we just need to do our job. Now it's time to retire and enjoy life.
Yeah.
Or something. But dreams? What are you going to dream about? Dream about your next vacation. Dream about that great golf game or something like that.
Dream about the new car you'll be able to afford.
Yeah, but I mean, in other words, that's not who we are intended to be.
Mm-hmm. So why do so many people not dream then?
That's another letter for another time. There's a letter called Disappointments. You see, the world crushes us with disappointment.
And it's hard to overcome.
You're never going to make it, George. You're never going to get elected.
Mm-hmm.
And so I go and I staple a few flyers out there believing I will never get elected. And guess what? I don't.
Yeah.
I did. But that's the other side of it. Well, what happens is I was young then. I think I was like 19 or something, or 18. And, so it was hard to, it's really hard to push down an 18-year-old.
Yeah.
But a 38-year-old, 48-year-old, 58-year-old, 68-year-old, it's pretty easy.
Yeah. So those people living that life of desperation and resignation, they just let the world beat them, basically.
And look, it's reality. I mean, there's a lot in this book that helps you unpack that, because we get into those disruptions in life and how do you navigate those and how do you create out of all of that. So you can see this one letter, it's got threads all throughout the book.
And so and we're going to do a few more of these letter podcasts, and I think it'd be a good one for us to do the disappointments one. But
it's a hard letter.
Yeah. But so these men who are living that resignated life, they got beat by the world. And so you're saying, especially with this letter, that the way to beat the world and not let it beat you is to follow your dreams. Because the dreams are the key to having that power to live the truer, freer life.
Okay, so, well, kind of. You've got to understand. It'd be really good to read the book. Which he's done.
Yes.
We just reread the whole book together, right? But here's the thing, is to live into who you're intended to be is living into adventure. These massive men who live lives of quiet desperation have resigned life. And they resigned life for a safe, more secure, happy little life. That's all they wanted. Just relief, peace, just a happy little life. And there's no adventure. There's no risk.
Yeah, but following your dreams takes you on an adventure.
And you're exposing yourself, boom. And it's going to happen. There's going to be disappointments, but you keep going because you're living into who you are, because the more liberal laws apply and you start to experience a freedom you'll never find any other way.
I think that's a great way to conclude this letter. I think we've hopefully unpacked a lot, and once people listen to it on the audiobook, they'll have a very detailed knowledge of what we're reading to them when they hear it.
You bet. For more podcasts like this, check out this video right here. I know you're going to love it. And until then, may you live truly free.